Okay, my outstanding friends, happy days are here again. Yale has changed the name of geology and geophysics to more represent what it is. It's biology. They changed it to earth and planetary sciences, and that's because these sciences include body tissues, not rock and sedimentation in every case. There is sedimentation, absolutely, but not that. Okay, my friends, it's starting to get to be kind of an exciting time. Now, this is from CBS News, and they have found a new species that is like the size of a chimpanzee, but apparently it could have fire. Now, I'm just going to let it play and see what they have to say. Here goes.
We are not just part of a complex now, there has been a complex past as well. We just never saw it because all this time we've been looking down instead of looking up.
All right, all she's talking about is they found this cave system, and when the guy finally crawled in there, he was so tired he landed on his back and he looked up and he could see there was all soot all over the ceiling. They obviously had fire in there. Is what their statement is now. And this was a creature that had a tiny little brain and was like about the size of a chimpanzee, and they claim they knew how to use fire and work with it and all these kind of things. But anyway, let's see how the news crew responds to this, because this is what I need is some, and I've tried all kind of news outlets. Nobody will respond to me because they think I'm so far off the mark. But just as you're seeing here, these things are real. And my mud fossils are absolutely real. And we have new species. This is new, and I'll show you a little deeper into this in a second. We have no toes, and that's what these are. The toes are built into to the foot. That's a foot, not a shoe. And then, I've discovered the process that petrifies soft tissues. And this is a goose head. This is feathers and everything. And all it relates to is a hot water, salty flood that caused the what do you call it? The tissues that are your membranes, basically membrane tissue. It's collagen. It attached to aluminum silicates, and it formed a barrier to everything. Like even the membranes on bones. That's a bone. It's not a rock. That's a bone. There is a taste of bone left in there. That little tiny bit right there, that white spot, is what's left as far as bone goes. But this is called nucleophilic substitution. All of these things were in a wet, long duration, hot water, salty flood. And one side turned perfectly flat, basically, and they laid like that. And after they came out of this salty hot water solution after a very, very long time, all of the molecules inside the degradable tissue had found something to attach to that made them stable. That's all it is stability. And different types of flesh and tissue and connective tissue and bone and even like your nerve fibers and everything, they will attach to different types of minerals if they're allowed to. It depends what's in the water, and it depends how quickly the water is turning over. It depends if there's a lot of metals, if there's a lot of salts, acids. All of those things are very critical in the outcome of mud fossils. Some of them turn just like that, like a piece of meat. Some of them turn into rock, just rock. Some of them turn into glass. Literally glass. That's a heart. I have studied these very, very well, and I will stand up against anybody that wants to confront me and say, oh no, Roger, you're wrong, this isn't right. Well, let's talk about it. Let's do a little discussion rather than just an exam to say I'm not right. And that is all I've gotten yet. Not one single question from anybody in academia. Now listen to how the news crew responds to this. They're thrilled. Well, don't try to get that thrill from a university. Watch.
For CBS Mornings, Deborah Patter, Cradle of Humankind, South Africa.
What a fascinating story.
Just a mind-blowing story. That scientist who lost 50 pounds so he could get down and shit into the little cave, and then he looks up and he sees that there's fire evidence on the ceiling.
To understand,
That's dedication, Lucy.
dedication. That's what, whatever motivates you.
Yes.
Just to understand human evolution, to understand that as we all originated from this cradle of civilization in Africa, from the very first proto-human Australopithecus afarensis to these new discoveries that they're finding is remarkable.
Okay, Mr. Scientist over there.
Yes, I know.
What was that word?
Australopithecus afarensis is one of the...
Did you see how that just floated off his tongue?
There was Africanus, and then of course we get into the Homo erectus, Homo habilis.
Tony,
I really hope you got it.
What'd you say?
I want to be part of this kind of a discussion where people really, they're interested. All I've ever gotten was pushback. Like, you're coming here with poison. It's just unbelievable. This is the kind of people I want to be around. Okay, I tell you, we have a bunch of these no-toes. I have several different varieties, and Tish Egerton, who discovered this one that is eroded, they have springs inside instead of tendons and bones like we have. And they have, the toes are built in. This one's highly eroded. This one's even more eroded. But you can see the calcaneus the ball in the back here with the tendon coming up, which links to the bone. This has exactly the same thing. The tendon comes up and links to the bone. These two springs do the same job as our tendons do. I think this could use a little discussion. Okay, I have this here in my shop, and this is this tendon that goes up to where the bone would have been sitting in this cradle. And when you step on your front, this thing loads up, and it has a latch here that pulls right here. You see it? That pulls in this spring, pulls this right into this cavity, and that loads the second spring. The first spring loads up, and if it goes too far, it starts to pull this one in. So you got this one, then this one, and then it just automatically lays back down because of its spring mechanism. That's a tendon. These little wrinkly looking things, that's what happens when a tendon breaks. It has wrinkles on it. That's the ball of the foot. And I have this here, I've watched it. And she has a whole leg of one of these. Actually, I have the leg here. She sent me these things to examine, and she's right. They are exactly what they look like. They're engineered body parts from some kind of a creature nobody has any idea about. These are plates of tendinous connective tissue, and then they have those little bolt-looking things through them and springy-looking things. And this is the red flesh. So it's a mix between a creature and a machine. Okay, my friends, get ready for the new series because I am going to do one thing at a time. I'm going to say geology according to Roger, history according to Roger, subatomic model according to Roger, mythology, chemistry, which is now click chemistry. It's not, they didn't understand how these particles work. There's a bazillion particles in the nucleuses, and they never took this into account, so that changes all chemistry too. Changes the periodic chart too. Biology, enzymes, bacteria, they have to understand all that because the enzymes are the things that do all the chemistry in your body. 100% of the chemistry in your body that's click chemistry is done by enzymes, and it happens at the speed of light because magnetism and the clicking happens at the speed of light. Proteins are like this. They're huge, huge molecules. And when they come to do their job, they have to be exactly like that. And then they go click, and then everybody changes at once. That's why an enzyme can change millions of other molecules in 1 second. Just with one enzyme molecule. And all that click goes through all the magnetism. We got a lot to talk about. Light, space. There's no vacuum in space. It's saturated with the particles of space. And even Fermilab says that. And here's the particles I've been showing. And these are right there. Fermilab's particles. Not my particles. They found them at Fermilab. And they also talk about the quantum foam. And here's the quantum foam. Empty space isn't empty. They know that. This is nothing but saturated particles of light. I've shown those particles, and they emanate from all luminous bodies. They don't just go nowhere. They come to us through the non-vacuum of space. Okay, we just really got to get deep into this because the new model of the atomic nucleus is dipoles, which means there's a positive and a negative in the core. It's not just a positive. And everything is made of these two particles, a muon and electron neutrino. They glue together to make everything. That means that even hydrogen, instead of being one proton, is 1832 or so of these electrons in a ball like this, instead of one like that. All right, when they explode, all of these go flying like crazy. That's why hydrogen is so explosive. If it was only one particle, what do you think would happen? When you put a spark next to it, why would that explode? No reason whatsoever, but put a spark next to this, and all of these things no longer are stable. And when they go off, they go off. Because every electron takes up a very large region of space. If it's by itself, when they're attached together, they're pretty tight. When it's by itself, it controls a huge region of space around it and pushes everybody away. That's what the bang is all about. And because they don't agree that there's all these particles in space, they don't understand even global warming. What we're doing is we're scrubbing against the particles that are in space as we spin. Our particles are semi-attached to the Earth. They scrub, but now they're scrubbing really hard because the expansion of the gases is so big. It's not just the carbon. It's carbon dioxide, yes, but it's expansion gases. It's not carbon. It's because we're expanding and we're scrubbing harder at this zone now. And that's what's causing all the turmoil and floods and hurricanes and tornadoes and global warming. Because out here, it's not 0 degrees out there. It's 2,700 degrees, something like that, right where our atmosphere crushes into space's atmosphere. That's the atmosphere. It's not empty. And it's scrubbing. That's where our global warming is coming from. If they add particles into here, it's just going to create more global warming. As they work, not understanding the nucleus is made of these particles, and that these particles move through space unseen until they crash into our atmosphere, cause light and heat. So I got something to say about everything. So stay tuned to The World According to Roger.